Okay, everybody, we're going to begin. It's wonderful to see all of you. Welcome. I am so grateful that you're all here, and I'm going to keep it together. So I am Mariana Reutman Schiffner, and as messages of love and sadness flooded social media the moment we all learned the tragic news about Rabbi Rindenow, I was struck by the similarity of everybody's posts. Rabbi Rindenow changed my life. He was the best Torah teacher I ever had. Rabbi Rindenow helped me and my family. He was the life of the party. He lit up the room with the sparkle in his eyes and his contagious and hilarious laughter. He was the kindest mensch I ever knew. It's nothing short of miraculous that we all felt so loved, supported, and entertained by him. How could one person be there for everyone? Before we try to answer that question, I must thank the amazingly helpful David Kerwin, my 10-year-old daughter Jackie, who has been my trusty tech support, the very wise Rabbi Lipner for recruiting Rabbi Rindenow to work at the Hebrew Academy so that all of our lives could be changed for the better. Most of all, I want to thank you, Mindy Rindenow, for agreeing to move to San Francisco in 1978 with 2 tiny babies in tow, and for sharing your beloved husband with all of us. It's impossible to capture the essence of someone who was larger than life, but let's try anyway. We're about to hear amazing stories from Hebrew Academy rabbis, teachers, alumni, and community members. Thank you all so much for sending in your messages. I hope you forgive me and understand that in the interest of time, I had to edit them or we would all be here for a week. However, I promise to make the full-length versions available to Mindy and the children and anyone else who is interested. So, pour yourself a beverage, grab some tissues. Most importantly, turn off your video. If you could do that so that my video looks really great and there's no glitching. And please sit back and let yourself be transported through these incredible stories that make up the tapestry of Rabbi Rindenow's Hebrew Academy of San Francisco chapter. And so we begin.
He taught so many people and in so many places. He gave, not only did he teach at the Hebrew Academy, but he gave classes for adults all over the Bay Area. And he taught Jewish medical ethics in 4 hospitals every month. So you can imagine the following that he developed. People loved him. People loved him, first of all, because he was a very warm person. And he was very intelligent. When I say intelligent, I don't mean that he could get 3 PhDs in 1 year. That's not what intelligence to us means. Intelligence means seichel. Seichel means common sense. And that's very important, especially when you deal with people who never studied Torah. So here's a young man who comes to me at the age of 22. And within maybe 5-6 years, I'm sending him all over the United States to get students, to raise money, to teach all over the San Francisco Bay Area, sending him to Panama, Mexico, and Switzerland. That tells you the confidence that I had in him. He was so smart. He had so much seichel, so much common sense, and so successful. I know that some doctors, Philippa Neufeld and others, they were crazy about him. And they would come to his classes in adult education. So Rabbi Rindenow taught medical ethics, taught adult education, taught hundreds of people who loved him. His house on Shabbat was full of guests. And many people got so attached to him that no matter what they asked of him, he could say no. Or sometimes he would get 2 hours of sleep, and the 2 hours of sleep, where did he get them? In his car. He would sleep in his car. But Baruch Hashem, he had tremendous energies.
Mordechai Rindenow, one of the dearest friends of my lifetime. 43 years. I met him the day he and Mindy arrived in San Francisco with Abi 1.5 years and Yocheved 4 weeks. And I went to the motel they were staying at and knocked on the door, and he opened it. And there was a face that immediately felt so familiar to me. And I said, "Get in the car." And he looked at me. I said, "All of you, get in the car. You're coming to my house." They did. They stayed with me for a few days until they found housing. And it was the start of Mordechai becoming family. And 43 years. And even though he was quite a bit younger than I am, he felt like a big brother. He kind of took that role sometimes. He had advice for me when I asked for it. He had advice for me when I did not ask for it. And it was always ultimately welcome and very, very good advice. Mordechai and I learned Russian together. There were suddenly so many of these beautiful little emigre children who weren't speaking English yet. Their parents were not speaking English yet for the most part, and their grandmothers who were taking care of them spoke nothing. How were they supposed to communicate? I decided I would learn how to speak Russian. Got myself a Russian teacher. Mordechai said, "I'm going to learn with you." So we did, weeks and weeks. And at one point, the teacher and I were going a little bit faster than Mordechai was, and there was a lot of, kak vas zavut, mya zavut Jana, back and forth. And all of a sudden, Mordechai, who was, as I say, just a little bit lost for that moment in the conversation, tapped his hand on the table and said, "Mya zavut, lonely." So Mordechai, that became our code word, mya zavut, lonely, for "I miss you." And when he left San Francisco, I didn't like it, but I knew he was going where he was going to be happy. And I knew we'd see each other. He came to San Francisco often. He would stay with me. He would come, he would walk into the house and want to drink a l'chaim right away. He was so good at that. And Mordechai carried with him a sense of self that was so beautiful and contagious. Mordechai was so comfortable as who he was that it couldn't help spread to whoever was with him. He made other people feel comfortable. I can't think of anybody, I should speak for myself, always felt graceful in his presence, valued, and happy, very happy. Mordechai was unusual. His bounding energy and the way he would just walk down the street, he would just bubble down the street. He would stop and talk to strangers and wish them well. And he carried something marvelous with every step he took. So my conversation with Mordechai starts in 1978 and it ends absolutely never.
I'm sure you remember me as your Hebrew teacher. I taught at the Hebrew Academy for 37 years. When I started, I was very, very young, in 1974 until 2011. In 1978, another young teacher arrived to our school, and he brought a fresh, positive energy to our school, Rabbi Rindenow. He had it all. He knew how to teach and at the same time befriended his students. During our teachers' meetings, when we discussed different topics, he was the one who saw everything as the glass half full. When we discussed some students who might not have performed as expected or had any learning issues, he remained fully supportive of them. The holiday of Purim is around the corner, and this was Rabbi Rindenow's favorite holiday. As soon as the month of Adar arrived, the celebration began at the Hebrew Academy. He led the students through the hallways of the Hebrew Academy, dancing and singing. His wonderful voice of the song Mi Shenichnas Adar was heard throughout the school. He had the most original and creative ideas for our Purim Carnival. I'm sure you all remember the color war. He was so unique with his Purim costumes, both humorous and tasteful. Purim was a great excuse for a mashke, a drink, here and there, and this was a mitzvah and a tradition that made him even happier. There were times that Rabbi Rindenow was indeed serious, especially when he was teaching. However, even then, cheerful and friendly, but most of all, he put others before himself. Many among us kept in touch with Rabbi Rindenow even after he left the Hebrew Academy, while he lived in New Jersey or in Israel. He was an inspiration, a mentor to the lives he touched. I wish I could deliver this speech in Hebrew, as I'm sure that some of you would have understood it. I'm so pleased to hear that some of our students now live in Israel, and it brings music to my ears to hear him speaking fluent Hebrew. Although it's wonderful to see all of you here, we are deeply saddened by the reason we are here brought together today. The sudden passing of this wonderful human being, our Rabbi Rindenow. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mimi Reel, and I've been associated with the Lisa Kampner Hebrew Academy for more years than I can remember. I still can't get my arms around the fact that Rabbi Rindenow is gone, and my heart is absolutely broken. Rabbi Rindenow was very important in our wedding. He, Rabbi Goodman and Rabbi Lipner, married us at a lovely, lovely hotel in Sausalito. The ceremony itself was beautiful, and afterwards at the Simcha, Rabbi Rindenow was absolutely a bundle of joy and energy and exuberance, and really turned the event into something that was truly extraordinary. I can still remember him dancing with just enormous, enormous energy, with a rose in his mouth, a wine bottle on his head, and dancing the Kazatsky. None of us could even imagine how he managed to do that. But he was wonderful, and it turned the event into something truly extraordinary, truly something spiritual that I will never, never forget. After our wedding and after we returned from our honeymoon, Rabbi Rindenow was very essential in koshering our new home in Mill Valley. So he came out to kosher the kitchen, but primarily he was concerned with our pots and pans and kitchen utensils. So I had piled them into a big mound on the dining room table, And he sat at a chair at the head of the table with his trusty blowtorch and began to kosher the various pots and pans. And again, just like Rabbi Rindenow always was, he was just so relaxed and so happy and kind of sitting back and just blow torching these pots and pans, as if he was having coffee and Danish with us. It was just absolutely remarkable. Well, in the middle of all this, in comes the Comcast guy to set up our cable on our new TV. And he takes one look at what's going on in the dining room. Here is this rabbi with the black hat and the beard sitting at this table mounded with pots and pans, wielding a blowtorch to all these pots and pans. And I'm sure to this day that installation guy is talking about the most unusual installation that he ever did. Of course, we still have a wonderful kosher kitchen thanks to Rabbi Rindenow. These memories are what is going to keep me going and what is going to keep all of us going as we remember the enormous, incalculably wonderful legacy that Rabbi Rindenow has left to the Hebrew Academy, to San Francisco, to the rest of the United States, and to Israel. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bob Reel, the president of the Lisa Kepner Hebrew Academy of San Francisco. Rabbi Rindenow had not davened Mariv, the evening prayer. It was now probably getting close to midnight, 12 o'clock in Jerusalem. And in the religious Hasidic area, he ran around with us tagging behind him, looking for a synagogue that was praying Mariv. Here it is midnight. The only thing I can think of, it was like being in Los Angeles at midnight looking for a restaurant. They're open all over the place. Rabbi Rindenow found an all-night synagogue. It was bustling with people. It was like a holy day with the number of people that were outside and inside. There were 2 floors. There were services going on all night. It was an all-night synagogue. He davened Mariv, and only Rabbi Rindenow could find an all-night synagogue in Jerusalem.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to let you know I'm getting a lot of messages that people have stories they want to share. And I just want to let you know that there will be time for that. We have a bunch more videos that have been pre-recorded, and I'm so excited for you to see many more of them. And then afterwards, I promise that after we see family photos and photos of Rabbi Rindenow through the years, I will open it to whoever else wants to speak. So if you'd like, you can send me a message in the chat, and I will promise that I will honor it, and everybody who wants to speak can speak. So without further ado, I'm going to resume and start it again. And again, if you haven't turned off your video and you know how to do that, go ahead, because that will ensure that we have the highest possible resolution for the video. Okay.
Hi, it's Yehudit Lipner, and I'm remembering a time when there was a knock on the door in the middle of our lunch Shabbos afternoon, and there stood the Rindenow gang holding all their food. They had to leave their house because it was infested with ants because there was still honey around after Yontif. And so they came in and joined all of us, and we had the best time ever. It was fun. It was spiritual. It was everything that Mordechai was. And it's just one of the many memories, how delighted we were to have that surprise that we weren't expecting, but it was just a gift. And the best time ever was had by all.
Hello. For those who don't know me, my name is David Kerwin. I grew up in San Francisco. I now live in Israel. And I was a student of Rabbi Rindenow at the Hebrew Academy and very close with him and his family basically ever since I was a kid. So I first came to San Francisco as a 12-year-old kid in 1984. I had very little Jewish background. And for whatever reason, I ended up going to the Hebrew Academy and participating in Rabbi Rindenow's classes. Even though I was not by any means orthodox, something about him and his classes kept pulling me in. So eventually, it wasn't just participating in his classes, but I sat at his Shabbat table. I joined him for Passover Pesach for the Starim. The summer after 8th grade, somehow I ended up going to Mexico with him and his whole family. That was a crazy story. Just wherever he went, that's where I wanted to be. After high school, I went to Israel. I went to yeshiva and the army. And then a couple years after I was there, he arrived with his family, and it was the same. It was the same kind of experience. I had again Shabbat meals with him in Maseret, later with Telstone. I got married, had kids. Mike, he was at my wedding in Chicago. He showed up at the last minute to the point that it was almost like a miraculous experience when he came. We participated in each other's simchas, whether it was bar mitzvahs or weddings or britot, whatever it was, for many years, both when he was in Israel and then later when he was in the States. When he was back in Passaic and I would visit the New York area, I would always make sure to visit them and spend Shabbatot again, and it was like a magical carrying back to me when I was able to spend time with him. And then just a few short weeks ago, I had the merit of being able to visit with my wife and I visit with him and Mindy in Sfat, where they had just moved to Israel, made Aliyah a few months before, and that was only just a few weeks ago. How did someone like me end up following someone like him? This is not the kind of thing you would normally expect, a completely out of touch a teenager who would be following by a rabbi. With Rabbi Rindenow, it was the Hebrew phrase I think would be herat panim. It was the shining of his face. He was like a lighthouse. He called us in just with the light in his eyes. Anyone who knew him knows exactly what I'm talking about. The light of his eyes when he was passionate about the Torah he was teaching, or when he had a funny expression, or when he's trying to help someone. The light in his eyes was like no one else had ever seen. So I came to San Francisco not religious, but got pulled into that lighthouse in a number of different ways. From the warmth of learning from him in the school, sitting in the old school and the new school. When I would go to Young Israel, where he would daven, he would lead the services, and his sweet voice. And certainly on the high holidays, I remember the end of Yom Kippur was always a highlight, getting to hear him sing. But most of all, just from sitting around his Shabbat table with Mindy and the kids. It was like I was like I felt like a member of the family. I heard them. It was through the singing, the learning, the eating, definitely the drinking, just absorbing what it means to be a Jew. No one had to insist anything. It was the most natural feeling in the world. And it wasn't just me. He would take anybody in, but I felt like I was the most special person in that family. And so what's amazing is that so many people have had that same unique experience. People who said, no, I was the one who was a member of that family. And that's hard to imagine. How is it that everyone felt like they were the most important person to them? But I think that's about being like light, because when light fills the room, it doesn't belong to just one person. Everyone takes in that light and everyone benefits. So it's really unfathomable to think that light is actually extinguished. I'm trying to think what he might say if I asked him now. And I remember one of his shticks that I remember that I would do when we were in class, we'd ask him to, could we leave class earlier? Could we do something that he wasn't able to do? But he wouldn't just say, no, you can't. He would nod his head yes, and he would say, no. that mix of the tempering of the negative, but with the feeling of the positive, really was the essence of who he was. And so I think he might say that on the one hand, yes, we have to recognize that he is no longer with us, but on the other hand, that light can never really go out. There's a verse in Proverbs and Mishlei that says, Ki ner mitzvah v'Torah or, the mitzvah is a lamp and the Torah is light. It's light is the essence of things. We all learned that Torah. We all learned the Torah of Rabbi Rindenow's light. So as long as we continue to teach and share with others, that light can never go out. So when I talk to my kids about Torah, I get excited about it. When I sing at the Shabbat table, when I just live my life as a Jew in Israel, that's Rabbi Rindenow's light, and it will continue to spread across the universe as long as we keep doing this. And Purim is coming up. The Shloshim will be on Purim. And it was such a special holiday, Rabbi Rindenow. Having been at Purim Sudas in Israel and in San Francisco, it was something to behold. Any of you there can know he was at his heights on Purim. And Purim is all about that light. Le'yodim haita urav simcha. The Jews, there was light. That's the Rindenos. That's the light that we all experience. That pulled us in. That's why we're all here now. And there's a verse at the very end of the Megillah that really describes Rabbi Rindenow. Ki Mordechai Yudi, Mishneh lemelech Ashverosh, Gadol Yudi, Ratzui l'rov achav, Dorish tov la'amo, v'daver shalom l'chol zaro. Mordechai, the Jew, was highly regarded by the Jews and popular with the multitude of his brethren. He sought the good of his people and interceded for the welfare of all his kindred. What better verse encapsulates him? Who was highly regarded by the Jews, who was beloved by everyone. He sought the good of his people and the welfare of all of his kindred. Every person, Rabbi Rindenow, was interested in, whether he had just met them or whether he had known them for decades. It was that light that we'll all miss, but it's that light that we're all obligated to continue to spread to the rest of the world in his honor and in his memory.
Coming from a family that was somewhat to the left of Reform Judaism, I'd never had any sort of working relationship with a rabbi and had never known any personally. So in 1978, when I began teaching at the Hebrew Academy, I didn't know what to expect. Being the director of the school, Rabbi Lipner was friendly but reserved. And then I met Rabbis Goodman and Rindenow. Even though our teaching schedules didn't give us much time to commingle, I found both to be totally welcoming and delightful. I think the best memory I have of Rabbi Rindenow is that he was one of the most joyful people I'd ever met, with the greatest energy and enthusiasm for life, and how this spilled over into his work with our students. Especially memorable for me is the fun we had on several Yosemite trips we took with the upper grade classes, and was enhanced by his sharing some pretty good scotch with the chaperones. His memory will live on with all who knew and loved him.
One story about Rabbi Rindenow was that when the school was at the old building, Rabbi Rindenow was in charge of the davening of the boys. I was in charge of the davening of the girls. In any event, many times he would arrive at the school at the last minute with his van full of little kids, and since the boys were dependent on his being there in order to start the davening, many times there was not an immediate parking place and he would have to double park his car. One day he double parked and he went to daven with the hope that after davening would be over, he would have a few minutes in time and look for a regular parking place for his car. In any event, the boys are davening. All of a sudden, a kid comes into the synagogue and says, "You know, Rabbi, there's a policeman who's writing your van a ticket for double parking." He runs out. He's wearing his tallis and his tefillin, and he sees there's a black cop. The black cop saw Rabbi Rindenow and his tallis and his tefillin, and the cop got down on his knees and started pleading. He was so frightened by seeing Rabbi Rindenow and his tallis and tefillin, and started pleading for his life and saying, "Please don't do anything to me. I'll rip up the ticket." And it gave this additional meaning. We'll be reading the Megillah in less than 2 weeks, and it talks about that ליהודים הייתה אורה ושמחה וששון ויקר, and the idea is that they were wearing tefillin, and when they wore tefillin, all of the people that were associated with Haman were in fear when they saw the Jewish people wearing their tefillin, and when I heard the story, then, that thought cut to my mind that, say a rabbi, a tzaddik rabbi, with the talis and tefillin, someone who's not Jewish, sees it and is overcome with fear. And that was my typical story of Rabbi Rindenow, and I've been telling that story to students over the years. And yes, that was a Rabbi Rindenow story. Take care.
Hi, everybody. I hope that you are taking deep breaths and taking it all in. I am now going to share my own Rabbi Rindenow memories. Rabbi Rindenow was my first Hebrew Academy Torah teacher. He would usually walk in late because he had just gotten off of a fundraising call in his office. That infamous office to the right of the front desk where everyone loved to pop their heads in and get a warm smile and a witty remark thrown at them. He would walk into our classroom and quickly sit down at the teacher's desk. The first thing he would do was close his eyes. He would put his hands together, touch his fingertips to his lips, and just take a deep breath. That sent a clear message to us to stop talking and center ourselves. And then, as if someone just turned on a button, he would bring the parsha to life. My favorite was when he'd take whatever he saw on the desk in front of him and use it to illustrate his point. Like doing a puppet show using potted plants to tell the story of Miriam and Aaron confronting Moshe. He would get down on the floor behind the teacher's desk such that we couldn't see his face, and he would tell the whole story with the plants acting it out. We were 11. We thought it was hilarious, and so did he as he kept cracking himself up. But we all remember the story of that parsha. I loved riding in Rabbi Rindenow's car. Yocheved and I would beg to sit in the hatchback where you got to ride backwards. It was definitely the hot seat and all the kids wanted to be there. But I had the fewest shots to experience it, since no matter how much I pretended I too was a Rindenow, I wasn't able to ride in that car every day. So Rabbi Rindenow would advocate on my behalf. Before we even entered the Hebrew Academy parking lot, he would begin the negotiation. Maybe the girls can ride in the back today. He knew that if he brought it up gently and early enough, all the arguments could happen before we got into the car. And the girls usually got to ride in the back. My favorite place when I was a child was the Rindenow's home on Shabbat. The planning for Shabbat was just as memorable as Shabbat itself. I can picture Mindy preparing and getting everything and everyone ready. Her delicious ingredients carefully laid out on the counter. I can also see Rabbi Rindenow waiting till she leaves the kitchen for a brief moment so he can sneak in a piece of raw meat. He was an early adopter of steak tartare. Mindy did not approve of this, but she was never harsh about it. The love between those two was palpable and has remained the model of a happy marriage for me. As I see all the Rindenow kids' names on this Zoom call, I can feel the Monopoly pieces in my hands and the heated discussions over rounds of spades on the Rindenow living room floor. But most of all, I remember the conversations and Rabbi Rindenow's laughter. So much laughter, a sense of family and connection and the love of Judaism permeating through every crevice of that magical home. And let's not forget all those many, many guests. How did we never run out of food? So much joy at one table, so much generosity in one home. Everybody felt welcome and no one wanted to leave, most especially me. My favorite conversations with Rabbi Rindenow happened late on Friday nights. Guests would finally leave, and Rabbi Rindenow would make himself comfortable in a chair in the living room with the Torah book of choice and a drink, and a whole lot of interruptions. Can I ask you something? I'd begin. Of course, he'd smile. And then I would just tell him everything. When I was hurting, I wanted his advice. When I was confused, as most teenagers are, I sought his guidance. I told him things I didn't know how to tell my parents. He always listened so intently. He was an expert psychologist long before his doctorate. And no matter how late it got or how tired he would answer my questions by guiding me to help me find my own answers. When the Rindenows left San Francisco, everybody was heartbroken. But Rabbi Rindenow kept coming back for graduations, for special occasions, for medical ethics conferences. He was still present in our lives, and each visit felt like a celebration each time he returned. Since the family now lived in Israel, American shopping became a necessity. After a few strikeouts on his own, I scored the lucky role of being the Rindenow fashion consultant and Rabbi Rindenow's shopping escort. Those shopping adventures, as I tried to keep my promises to his daughters, Yocheved and Bela, of decent looking clothes, those were some of the most hilarious experiences of my life. Rabbi Rindenow's quick wit, goofy hilarity, they were on full display. Years later, Rabbi Rindenow would come to San Francisco in advance of Akiva and Edut's arrival as part of their Shava Brachot and honeymoon. The numbers of attendance for the party had suddenly tripled the morning of the event, and the caterer could not keep up. So naturally, that meant Rabbi Rindenow and I needed to get more food and fast. So we drove around all of San Francisco looking for kosher food in supermarkets and buying it in large quantities. He approached that potentially very stressful experience just like he approached his whole life. He remained calm and kind, sense of humor intact, and laser focused on ensuring his children and all the guests would have the most enjoyable experience possible. And as usual, they did. The last time I saw Rabbi Rindenow was 4 years ago in San Francisco. My daughter, who was almost 7 at the time, after observing the way my face lit up when he walked into the room, and after watching our interactions that night, asked me, "Mama, is he your superhero?" "Yes," I said, "he is. My teacher, my rabbi, my mentor, and definitely my superhero." And now I'm going to pass it on to another amazing teacher in all of our lives, a man who needs no introduction, but I'm going to introduce him anyway, Mr. Timothy Poirier.
Hi, thank you very much, Mariana. I taught secular studies, English in particular, at the Hebrew Academy for many years. And I had a very formal interaction with Rabbi Rindenow. He called me Mr. Poirier and I called him Rabbi Rindenow. My first encounter with Rabbi Rindenow occurred at my introductory staff meeting for the new school year, circa 1987, upstairs in rooms 207, 208 at Hebrew Academy. Unaware of Jewish time, I'd shown up good and early to a completely empty room. A few minutes after the appointed time, a bearded man rushed into the room shut the door from the inside, and proceeded to blockade it with his body. He laughingly declared that a Rabbi Goodman was on his way upstairs to lead the meeting, and he was making sure that the man in charge couldn't gain access to the room. At this point, I loosened my tie. On another morning of my first year at the school, about 20 minutes before lunchtime, while walking up the staircase to the library to prepare for afternoon classes, I passed Rabbi Rindenow racing down the stairs on his way to some emergency meeting in the main office. Passing me, he asked if I might substitute for him. He had a group of older girls in the science lab learning, and here he used a word utterly foreign to me. I responded by asking what I should cover with them. And as he disappeared around the corner, I heard him holler over his shoulder, "Circumcision." Needless to say, I had a good chat with the girls about the weather. It took me years to figure out that Rabbi Rindenow must have been joking. I can still recall his Israeli radio program carried over the school's public address system. And as DJ, he brightened the mornings with his playful banter, and the music that he played encouraged the girls to form conga lines down the hallways. No doubt about it, he was the life of the party, a person who enjoyed life to the fullest, and someone who inspired the rest of us to see the joy in all things. Thank you, Rabbi Rindenow, for your timeless and invaluable lessons.
Thank you, Mr. Poirier. We're now going to resume our video. And I just want to say that after the video, we will see a few photos. And then after the photos, I'm going to open it up. So if you'd like to say something, please put your name into the chat. And I promise I will call on you. Okay.
We are Cynthia and Yaakov Abrams, and first I'd like to say thank you. We'd like to say thank you to Mariana for putting together this memorial for Rabbi Rindenow. We lived in San Francisco from 1985 to 1995, so we overlapped with the Rindenows until they made Aliyah. And we lived in the Sunset District. We went to Young Israel. We saw the Rindenows every Shabbat. Our children were at Hebrew Academy. Our children and their children played together. So clearly, Rabbi Rindenow had a huge influence on all of our lives.
So we've been friends with the Rindenows for the past 35 years. Obviously, it's a big shock to see Rabbi Rindenow pass away, but we remember him for his enthusiastic davening, how he made the tiny shul, which was Young Israel Come Alive, for all the davening, the Seudah Shlishit, all the holidays. And we remember him especially for his effect on our children. Each child had a unique relationship with him. They felt his warmth, and in some way each child wanted to be like Mordechai. Just for one funny example, our son Moshe, age 3, was caught giving out imaginary l'chaims to his classmates in preschool, or similarly singing as he was getting dressed in the morning to be like Rabbi Rindenow. Each of our children has their own stories to tell about their relationship with him.
We and our children all had the same reaction to hearing that Mordechai had passed away. And and that was that we could not imagine a world without Rabbi Rindenow in it.
Reb Mordechai Rindenow. If you don't recognize me with my gray hair, this is Baruch Greenwald. It's very, very hard to think about you in past tense. But I can lift my soul a little bit with some memories. And any memory I have of you, Reb Mordechai, has got something to do with Simcha. And it's hard to be thinking about you in this month of Simcha. Because you were Simcha. Purim was something very special for you. Purim and Simchas Torah. The memory I want to share is about Simchas Torah. Well, we were having so much Simcha on that Simchas Torah back somewhere at the end of the 1980s. And we were dancing and we were singing and we were having a little schnapps and we went out in the street and we went back into the Beis Midrash and some of the neighbors didn't like the noise. It was too much noise and they called the police. And 2 policemen arrived and they came in and they saw the Simcha. And one of the 2 policemen was an Eid. And Reb Mordechai recognized that he was an Eid. He grabbed him. He gave him some schnapps. He gave him a Sefer Torah. And the policeman continued to dance with us. And this was a schus of Reb Mordechai. Simcha. Ivdu es Hashem besimcha. Ubou lefanav birnana.
Hi Mariana, hi everyone. Well, we have to practice our English a little bit. We didn't do it for a long time. I didn't do it. Just 2 short things that I remember about Rabbi Rindenow. First, it was at the beginning, Rabbi Rindenow and I, we had to share our office together. And I remember an argument about what is right teaching in the Hebrew Academy. I said, of course, that everything has to be very exact and everything has to be very systematic. We need new books. We need a new exact teaching and learning with a curriculum. And he said, you're right, but the most important is the ruach of the spirit of the limud. And we had to argument about it. And many times he couldn't go and teach because he had to do something with the fundraising. And he asked me, Hod, can you please replace me in that cage? I mean, 5 through 8 grade. And once he told me that, and I said, okay, what I have to teach? Mishnah, that Mishnah, hey, in some Masechet. So, okay, I prepared myself very fast, and I went inside. And then suddenly, just before I began the lesson, he came inside and said, oh, everything cancelled, so I can be here, but you can stay and listen to the lesson. And I listened, and that's something that I think that not a lot of people are talking about it, is how he was teaching. He was a great teacher, everything was so interesting, with a lot of ruach, but with a system, with a structure of the lesson. It was very good. It was a lesson for me that you have to listen sometimes in between the lines. That's one thing. The other thing is every end of the month, from the 27th, 28th, he began to have all kind of rash in his face, became red, and after a couple of months in the school at the beginning, I asked him, Rabbi Rindenow, what do you have? Once a month you have a rash in your face. he began to laugh and says, this is because in the first of the next month we have to pay everybody, and we have to give back all kind of loans and salaries. So that's the days that I'm running all over. And that's a month after month. Every time at the 27th, 28th of the month, the rash began to appear, cigarettes, running from here to there, almost like a heart attack. And I asked him once, Rabbi Rindenow, how can you live in that way? How can you live like that? And he said, I don't know how can I live in any other way. That's the way he lived. I mean, he couldn't imagine himself in a different stage, in a different way of living.
In the Halvaya that we watched on Zoom, one of the people said that one of his sons said, Rabbi Rindenow's son said that my father never said no to anybody. And I think that is very mat'im for Rabbi Rindenow. He had very good eyes. He was always happy to see people. He was always smiling and a very loving person. That's what I remember from Rabbi Rindenow. And it's very sad that he passed away this way with the corona. And we should only hear besorot tovot.
Yeah. Amen. Yeah. And we miss him. We miss you guys. And let's hope that we're going to have a besorot tovot for all of us.
Okay, so it's me, Sandy, now known as Amuna. I'm currently living in Israel, in the Ramat Golan. And this is my third take on a video because I keep bawling my eyes out and I keep trying not to cry. So I'm just going to tell you now that I could very well just start bawling any second, but I'm trying my best. Oh man. Okay. So to sum up a lifetime of stories and history and learning and fun is not something I could do in the 3 to 5 minutes that I was given to talk about my rabbi. And I could say that if he knew that I was speaking to you, he would tell me, don't talk about me, teach Torah. And when you're asked to speak about the Torah in a very brief, beregel echat, on one foot, to say one quick phrase that could somehow summarize the whole Torah, it would be Lahavta l'reacha kamocha, to love your fellow as you love yourself. And I could say that after thinking about it, that exactly describes Rabbi Rindenow. He loved us all so much. And he loved us the way he loved himself, totally, completely. And what does that mean, to love yourself? And I've been thinking a lot about this. And when you love yourself, you know your faults, and you know your history, and you know who you are. And you still love yourself. And that's how he loved us. He knew everything. Thank you, Abi. I'm still working on forgiving you for telling him everything. But in any case, he knew us all. He knew all of our past, and he loved us completely. But it's not just a love where you say, I love you no matter what. It's a love that says, I love you no matter what, but I expect more. And that's how we love ourselves. We're always trying to be better. And he would say, I love you, but I expect more. But even if you don't do more, I still love you. And that is the ultimate paradox, because how can you see faults and truly love and want more, but accept what is? And he was the most amazing person, and I miss him so much. That's my paper. So to have love like that in your life is a total blessing, and we were all really blessed to have him. And not long ago, Mindy gave me, oh, I didn't bring it in, a little healing rock, really beautiful little stone. And after the funeral, which unfortunately I attended on Zoom, I went into my room and my little rock somehow was laying on my dresser, cracked into 2 pieces. And a few weeks later, I tried to put the pieces back together, and there was a hole in the rock. And that's how I feel, that I know he wants me to put the pieces back together and to go on and to be happy and to know that Hashem is the king and that everything is for the good, and he really wants us all. He's like, okay, keep doing the mitzvahs that you pledged to do to get me healthy, but that there's still a little hole in my heart. And I love him forever. And I love you guys too, and I'm so glad that we have Facebook to keep a lot of us together. And of course, everyone's welcome to my house. And once the airport's open in Israel and people can fly around, I will keep trying to be the best me and love myself the way he taught us all to. Okay, love you guys.
Mordechai Yisrael Tzvi ben Moshe Aaron. We go back over 40 years together when we came to San Francisco, to the Hebrew Academy with Rabbi Lipner. And we've been friends ever since. We talked several times a week, even after both of us left San Francisco and left California. There's so many people that you touched, and your lives and their lives were intertwined with each other. Ours was one of them. Me, my family, my children, who you were their Rebbe. But I just want to share several things that you shared with me that were so important. One was that your mother, Alea Shalom, once told you that when you make Kiddush, it reminds her of her father's Kiddush. And as all of you know who are here, that her father was the last Chernobyl Rebbe in Europe, a world that she lost. And Mordechai once shared with me that she met with the Novominsker Rebbe Raperlo, and he commiserated with her on the fact that she lost not only her parents, but the whole world. That whole world was lost. And it meant so much to you that out of that lost world and her lost family and her dear father, the last Chernobyl Rebbe, that your Kiddush Friday night reminded her of her father and that world. And on your father's side, we once went to the airport in San Francisco. We were there together, and I was helping you schlep boxes of potatoes and apples and onions that your father in New York went down to the airport. In those days you could do this, and got people going on a flight to San Francisco to take these boxes to his son in San Francisco. And I looked at you and I looked at the scene and I said, Mordechai, why was he sending fruits and vegetables to you in San Francisco? Can't you get it here? It has to be put on a flight to get potatoes from New York to San Francisco? Doesn't make any sense. And the answer is It doesn't have to make sense. The chesed that he wanted to do for his son, the avas mekalkeles hasashura, it doesn't have to make sense. You do chesed beyond what's reasonable, beyond what someone would think is necessary or even logical. And that is something that was instilled in you throughout your life. And that is what benefited so many people. The things that you did for other people and the situations that you took upon yourself to get involved in, and the extent to which you went to help another Yid, the unbelievable Ahavas Yisrael, was beyond any bounds. It was an Ahavas Yisrael that was a Mekalkelis Es Ashura and benefited so many people. When I was sharing with my son Yitzchak, when I was sharing this with Yitzchak, Rabbi Rindenow's Talmud, that this experience that he had with Rabbi Rindenow as his Rebbe, he ended the conversation by saying, "What a loss, what a great loss." And I responded, "What a gain." And I think all of you understand what I meant. Your memory will always be Zichrona Levracha. It will be a bracha that we have a dugma, we have a model from the way you lived your life, unselfishly, helping others. And I'm sure you'll be missed, of course, by Mindy and the children, all your Talmidim, all your friends, all those who you interacted with will forever hold you in their hearts and in their minds and in their lives and in the way they conduct themselves as Yidden. And many of you, I'm sure, and who are hearing this, will eventually come to the kever. And when you come to the kever, I want you to know one thing. Rav Yoshe Ber Soloveitchik said that during a person's life, they're a mystery. But when they pass on, we understand who they really were. Mordechai Yisrael Tzvi ben Moshe Aaron was not only a Chernobyl Rebbe Einikel, he was a Rebbe. So when you come to the kever, you're coming to a Rebbe's kever. Keep that in mind when you stand there in the future. Yehi Zichro Baruch.
Hello. We're about to come to the last portion of the prepared program. I just want to warn you, you're about to see a video of Rabbi Rindenow. And then to help us compose ourselves, we're going to see some photos from him at the Hebrew Academy and with his beautiful family through the years up until now. After the photos, we're going to hear from whoever wants to speak. And so we're going to see Rabbi Rindenow now.
To all former students of the Hebrew Academy, I got a list from David Kerwin of how many people were involved in the reunion. Amazing. I couldn't keep up with all the names and the excitement and wanting to know how everybody is. So let me take the opportunity to wish you a very happy Hanukkah. And tonight is Rosh Chodesh, Chodesh Tov U'Mevorach. And may we all continue to have only Besurot Tovot, give each other much nachat, and celebrate many simachot, and be together for those simachot. I thought about the fondest memories, and I wish I could just see you all. And may we all be together soon in Eretz Yisrael with the coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu, B'mhera b'yameinu. Stay healthy.
Now we're going to see the slideshow. Okay, so I hope you're still with me. I'm going to go in order. So the first person I'm going to ask to speak is Naftali Neil Kreiser, who is going to share a few words. So I'm going to get Naftali on the screen. And I'm going to spotlight you, Naftali, and I hope you are ready. I gotta ask to unmute. Don't.
All right, well, good. Mariana, thank you very much for this opportunity. So I'm here with my wife, Aura, and one of my kids. I met Rabbi Rindenow. I was in my early 20s when I lived in San Francisco. And of course, I remember Rabbi Lipner and Rabbi Goodman and the whole gang. I was a classical music student. I played piano, and it was a heady time. But that hole in the wall at Noriega and 25th, the young Israel became a focal point of my life, and it was a point of transformation. And Rabbi Rindenow was instrumental in my becoming religious. I was certainly in a way that I wasn't before. And some of the stories have already been told by others. But about Rabbi Rindenow, what's interesting is that from that point on, eventually I went to Israel in my mid-20s, but Rabbi Rindenow kept on coming into my life. He punctuated my life at so many important junctures, whether it was when he was living in Telstone in Israel and I would visit him there. There were certain annual events that would occur, and I was always seemed to be a part of them. like the picnic we'd have during Pesach, with barbecue we'd have out in the woods. But it kept on going throughout all stages of my life, and even Rabbi Rindenow's life, wherever he was. And I knew Rabbi Rindenow for a total of about 34 years. I never once called him by his first name. He was always Rabbi Rindenow to me. And then I went to Israel, and I got smicha from the Rabbinut of Yerushalayim. And then I became a Navy chaplain. I'm still in the military. And anytime something occurred in my military life that I that I didn't know how to approach halachically or ethically, I'd call up Rabbi Rindenow, and he was always there. And he'd give me a talk, and I'd figure out how to proceed. And Rabbi Rindenow, the thing about him is that with one sentence, if now and then I seem to be going on a wrong course, one sentence he would speak, and it would set me right. That's all he needed to do. And it was so much fun to be with Rabbi Rindenow. I wouldn't see him for several years. And then suddenly I'd find myself stationed at some military base near New Jersey. And I can go see him. And then we'd start seeing each other again regularly. And it was always a party. I wouldn't see him for so long. Anytime he showed up, seeing Rabbi Rindenow was a party. This is going to be a good time. And what was unique also, I think, about Rabbi Rindenow is that he really accepted me as I was, because I'm a jokester. He would tell people he'd tell people I'm Navardak. He's Navardak. That's how he would excuse my antics. But he always loved my antics. He validated me. And he was so proud of me. I'd wonder why, but he was so proud of me. He's a musmach, Rabbi Rindenow would tell those who met me. He's a commander in the Navy. He was so proud of me. What do you think? Can I tell what happened? Can I tell what happened? Or
Thank you so much.
okay, there's one thing I want to say. And you might think I'm strange. I consider myself a pretty level-headed person. And strange. But a couple of days after Rabbi Rindenow died, and I work in a hospital, so I'm used to saying things as they are. It was the craziest thing. And I was devastated, absolutely devastated. And my wife was crying, I was crying. A couple of days afterward, I was watching Saturday night, Motzei Shabbos, a stupid science fiction movie from the 50s with the kids about a giant spider. Silly movie that I used to watch when I was a kid. We're watching this. Suddenly, the TV starts to act really weird.
Digitalize.
It starts to digitalize, and it's weird. It never
lines everywhere.
It never ever had happened, and it progressed. It was gradual. It just progressed and progressed until finally you couldn't watch the TV. And I'm telling you, and I've studied the literature. I know these things happen. It was Rabbi Rindenow. I'm telling you, he was saying goodbye to me. He didn't want me watching the stupid spider movie with my kids. And my wife was even right.
It's very common for electrical disturbances after somebody passes. It's just very common. It happened with my cousin. It's happened with other people.
But let me tell you, but I'm not done. I want to say this.
There's just a lot of people who want to speak, and I love this story, but I want to tell you, I thank you again. I'll give you one more minute, but please, there's a long queue of people. So
all right, there's one more thing is that then at night I had a dream. Rabbi Rindenow's talking to me through a cell phone. And I'm saying to him, you've got to go to this address. But it was my address. And then, loud and clear as a bell, Rabbi Rindenow's voice comes through the cell phone. And he gives out the address. He says, that's your address, and you have to go there. In his happy voice. And it just made me feel so calm. I really feel like he was there saying goodbye to me. That's all I have to say. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you so much. Thank you again. Shayna Chandler Leon, you are up next. So I'm going to spotlight you. And here you are.
Thank you so much, Mariana. It is fitting, though heartbreaking, to be making this tribute to Rav Mordechai just a few days before Purim. I told myself that was the reason I had delayed in making my Hamantaschen till this morning, was so that they could be getting ready to be put in the oven so that I could dedicate this time, particularly to Rabbi Rindenow, who loved this holiday especially and gave us such joy at this time of year and so many others. It is joy that I think of when I remember Rabbi Rindenow. When I heard of his passing, I went right to my shelf and brought the Kadima yearbook from 1982. We were in 7th grade, and these pictures of Purim, of him on roller skates at one of our outings with the academy. His tzitzis flying and his arms in the air just encapsulates his spirit and his goodness. My classmates and I that year, one day, had conspired to put together a party to celebrate the most recent addition to the Rindenow family. And we would do sometimes anything to get out of class, as much as we did love learning with him. And we had collected and we bought gifts and we decorated the classroom, and then we locked the door. And he was so concerned about us and was banging on the door, and it was time to start class, and children, open up, and you could hear almost the panic in his voice as we were frantically putting the decorations together and getting everything ready. And finally, Ressa opened the door, and we all said, Mazel Tov, Rabbi Rindenow. And when he realized that we were barring the door because we were making a party for him, the mixture of love and gratitude and just dearness for all of us was so huge, and we have pictures of it. He always received me as I was. Hebrew and Judaics were a real struggle for me. He never made me feel less than, as I know he did for all of us, just to receive us with the fullness of our imperfect offerings. He never didn't receive us with his open heart. These memories make me laugh till I am crying, but I will close with just this teaching from Pirkei Avot. Yehoshua ben Parachia Omer, Aseh lecha rav ukneh lecha chaver, veheve dan et kol ha'adam lechaf zechut. Find for yourself a teacher, acquire for yourself a friend, and judge every person favorably. Rabbi Rindenow was our friend, our rabbi. He judged everyone favorably and taught us to do the same. May we live in the light of his legacy.
Thank you so much. That was so beautiful. It is so fitting that we're doing this all before Purim just comes in. So the next person to speak is going to be Alina Schkop, and I'm going to go ahead and ask you to start your video so that I can spotlight you. So go ahead, let's go ahead and spotlight you for everyone, and here you are. And let's go ahead and unmute and take it away.
Hi everyone, I'm gonna try and do this without crack. Okay. I wanted to represent the Soviet Jewry who came. And when we were little, we really had no Jewish background or history at all. And we actually, our parents taught us one thing, be secular. They sent us to Jewish school, learn religion. And there was constantly this conflict between what the rabbis were teaching us and what our parents were teaching us and what was happening at home. And so as a little kid, I remember all the time, like learning one thing somewhere here, learning something somewhere there. And there was like this internal battle. And I remember Rabbi Rindenow when I was young, like 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, something like that. He was in charge of our prayers. And I hated saying the prayers. I just didn't like it at all. It's not something I learned at home. And I would just kind of mumble or move my mouth, but he knew I wasn't saying them. And he would sit next to me or stand next to me and sing them with me until his light just pierced through me. And I would say the prayers with him. And then it just brought me a little bit of joy. Then the next morning it happened again. I didn't want to say the prayers. And he would come again over and over, not only to me, to all the students, whoever, we didn't know this. We didn't grow up with this at all. And what I realized about a week after he passed, when I was home saying the prayers, he was saying them with me, that it's because of him. It's really because of him that I have a love for Israel. It's because of him that I love the prayers. It's because of him. And I hear his echo through every Adon Olam I say, through every Modeh, through every Shema. I hear his echo, and it's so beautiful. And I feel like his light can penetrate through and pierce through anything. And I remember a little bit on that note, like we would have these sandwiches that the kids would bring to school, these Russian sandwiches, bologna and cheese. He would throw them in the trash. And of course, the parents got very angry. You're taking my children's lunch away. And they would come and they would meet Rabbi Rindenow he would meet them with so much chesed and love and hugging them and kissing them and what can I do for you? And all of a sudden they would just melt. He just melted everyone. And I feel like he was really the heartbeat of the school. That is no wonder that all of us are here today honoring him. He was really a gadol, a giant, and I'm so grateful that he was in my life. I'm so saddened that I didn't know what a giant he was when I was so young, but he was still there with me, and he was still there with each and every one of us because he believed in us, he believed in Torah, he believed in Yiddishkeit, he believed in every pore of his being, he believed in what he was doing and giving in the world. And he is such a mentor for us, such a light for us. And he is not here. He is with us. He's in our hearts. He's in our beating hearts. He's in all of our prayers. And I'm so happy that him and Mindy made it to Tzfat. I know it was a big dream for them. And my husband and I met in Tzfat, and we lived there for many years, and we missed each other. But we were able to see them, unfortunately, at Shlomo's funeral in Israel. And we just love the family very much. And we wish that every memory from all of us and from all of you just keeps lighting the world, and that his neshama should rise to the highest realms possible. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alina. I'm so grateful. Okay, Hinda Langer, you are next. So I'm going to ask you to unmute, and here we go. If you could unmute yourself.
Okay.
Great.
I think I'm unmuted, yes. Can you hear me?
You're perfect. Go ahead.
Okay. I didn't plan to speak today, but I'm just so moved by everybody. And I just want to share something special that happened when Mindy and Mordechai went on a trip. They asked us, my husband and I, Rabbi Langer, to have one of their children stay with us for just like a few days, maybe 2 days. And it was Menachem Nachum. And before, I just knew him a little bit, thank God we were colleagues, and, because everybody's doing Shabbos in their own neighborhood, I can't say that we were ever together on Shabbos. All I could say is that I learned very much about Mindy and Mordechai when Menachem Nachum slept over, because in the afternoon, he would daven mincha. I think he was 6 years old. Maybe he was 7. And then at night, he would daven Maariv. I have never had that experience. of such like awe of parents that gave the kind of chinuch, the kind of education to their children as they gave to everybody. And I don't know why this has just affected me so much, because he's younger than me. He is a tzaddik, and I really was touched by exactly how Rabbi Goodman understood that, and he was echoing some of my thoughts, that you don't really know somebody in a certain sense of their greatness while they're alive. And that he is a Rebbe. And I was trying to think to myself, who has that capacity that he had? And as Emona said, V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Thank you, Mariana. This has been somewhat of a comfort to me to be with everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, David Naysler, you are next. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight you. And if you can please go ahead and start your video. That way I can spotlight you. David Naysler. Can you unmute yourself and unhide yourself?
Hello. Can you hear me? Hello.
Yes, but we can't see you, so you need to start.
I'm not prepared to start my video. However, I would like to mention, unfortunately, but I hope I can mention a few.
Go ahead.
Collection of I have of Rabbi Rindenow, and my condolences to his family, and it's a privilege to relay this memory that I wrote down now. My name is David Naysler. I'd like to relate a memory I have of as being a student of Rabbi Rindenow in the 4th grade in the old school. At the time, I had a learning asymmetry that I still hadn't grown out of, called dysgraphia, in which the act of writing was particularly difficult for me. I've always held special my memory of the day in Chumash class in the Yellow Building, when, as a direct affront to my disinclination, he had the class write out the entire Shema in Hebrew, several paragraphs long. It was probably the most I'd written at one sitting in any language in my life to that point. In fact, I think he allowed me several periods. I remember clearly looking up at his face from the page of Hebrew on the desk in the class, now 40 years ago. He encouraged me firmly, with no shame, and with an unyielding positivity. In so doing, he unknowingly helped me begin my transformation as a student, offering me one of my first glimmerings of openness regarding school learning regarding learning in the school environment, that it could ever be positive. It was with a deep, deep joy that when teaching my own son, Jacob, to read and write Hebrew several years ago, that we reached the point that I had him copy the Shema into the pages of a bound notebook, just like we use at the Hebrew Academy. The experience was a direct extension of the joy of learning that Rabbi Rindenow gave to me. At his bar mitzvah last year, Jacob learned to read from the Torah with comfort and competency from his own rabbi. But of all the things my son thanked me for after the ceremony was for teaching him to read and to write Hebrew. I thank Hashem and the Hebrew Academy for giving me time with Rabbi Rindenow at a critical period of my life, for passing the light of Torah, for passing the light of learning, and through whose modeling intrinsically taught me to do the same. Blessed indeed is the memory of Rabbi Rindenow for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, David. Okay, the next person that is going to speak is going to be Ari B. Laurie. So I'm going to go ahead and spotlight you, Ari, and I'm going to ask you to unmute. And I'm going to just ask you if you could just, just take a couple of minutes, because Zoom fatigue is real. So I'm going to go ahead and ask you to unmute yourself. And
so easy. There you go. Okay, can you hear me?
We can hear you. We can hear you, and thank you for keeping it brief. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yes. Yes. Unlike some of the people that spoke, I wasn't a student at Hebrew Academy. I am a native San Franciscan who met Rabbi Rindenow when he first came to San Francisco. I'm not sure how, but I attended one of his classes. It sounded interesting. And there you go. I was off to the races with him. I met a lot of rabbis in my life, but Rabbi Rindenow was unique. The way he talked, his love of Torah, his smile, his always there for me. Just one thing that he did for me, he had a friend who sold used cars, and he took me there so I could get a used car. The other thing I want to tell is that the Shabbats I went to his house and I met his beautiful family, of course, the kids, Mindy and everyone. I felt so welcome there and so much part of the family. It was always a joy to be there, a joy to see the children. Once I took Bela to the swings, I remember, little things like that. It was just now I consider it a real privilege that I was allowed through Hashem to meet Rabbi Rindenow and his beautiful family. And I will always cherish the love he gave me. And may his life be a blessing to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I just saw the note. Listener would like to. We heard Mrs. Lipner's beautiful voice. I should say Yehudit Lipner, forgive me. But we didn't see her, so I'm going to ask you to unmute. Hi, it's so nice to see you both. Welcome. And I'm going to go ahead and ask you to unmute and take it away.
I just want to tell you that Mordechai had something, his love for people was because Mordechai saw right through to the neshama, to the soul of everyone. And he didn't see any schmutz, anything that others see. He didn't see, he saw only the beautiful, perfect soul of each Jew. And because of that, he was able to love everyone completely, and everybody felt loved and loved him back. And the other thing that I want to tell you is no one ever davened Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur like he did. The heavens opened up when he davened. I've never heard anyone who never felt Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur like when Mordechai davened. And, I accept that he's gone, but psychologically, I can't still accept it. I know he's gone, but I still think like I'm going to hear he's going to call, or I'm going to call him. And I don't know when that's going to stop. I don't know when. It's very, very hard to accept it. Thanks, Mariana, for letting me talk.
Thank you for being here. Okay, the next person who's going to speak is Daniela. And Daniela is a niece. And so I'm going to spotlight you, Daniela. Let's see. There's Daniela, and I'm going to spotlight you. Mute. Please unmute.
Hi, everyone. I'm Daniela. I'm Rabbi Mordechai's niece. So basically, I just want to say a short story because I know a lot of people are talking, but a couple of, I think 2 years ago, I heard a shiur, and it was about how the Lubavitcher Rebbe, Ariel Sharon, called the Lubavitcher Rebbe and asked him why Ariel Sharon asked the Lubavitcher Rebbe, why have you never come to Israel? So the Lubavitcher Rebbe said, Ariel Sharon, you're a man of the land and I'm the man of the sea. I have to keep my troops, together here in the land. They need me the most here. So I remember right after I heard the shiur, I called Uncle Mati and I told him what happened. And I was like, it's crazy because it really reminds me of you. I feel like you're still in America because you're really holding all the troops together. And he started laughing. Everyone knows his laugh. It's contagious. And I just want to say that over my whole life, I'm 31, he's done everything for my family. And I know he's done everything for so many people, but he makes every single perfect person feel so special in their own way. Like he can be speaking to me at 3 a.m. and that there's no one else in the world. And every question I had on halacha, every sneeze thing he's taught me, or to say on Netilat Yadayim when you wake up, like everything, I will remember everything he ever told me, and everything he's done for my family. But one thing I think that is so important that like a lot of people are saying, and you know, one thing is his wife, Mindy, is really a tzaddikas, because all the time that he was helping every other person in the world, she was there right by his side. And every single time I ended a conversation, like it just, every husband should learn from the way he treated Mindy. Like I remember Mindy was walking down my stairs, like every time, Mindy, you are the most gorgeous person I've ever seen. Like he means it with his full heart. The way he treats everyone, the way he treated his wife is something we really should learn. Like everyone should just learn from it. I know like he should be here for way longer. Everyone knows that, but it's something that's so important. And I just wanted to just bring that out. And yeah, and thank you so much for doing this. This is really so beautiful.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for saying it. So the next person who's going to speak is Ami Alanik, who is Rabbi Rindenow's beloved nephew. And I'm going to go ahead and spotlight you, Ami, and I'm going to ask you to unmute. And thank you for being brief, and it's so nice to see you here. Welcome, Ami.
Thank you very much. So I wanted to say, Rabbi Rindenow, really my educational life, I went to Hafter Hebrew Academy in Five Towns and for Rockaway, and I had no thanks a lot to him educationally and everything. Without him, and I want to give an example, a Torah like example of him, how he did very well, like with as like others said, with like learning issues and everything. I had a learning issue myself. He like helped me like so much. I could relate to Chanukah, and he like related my daily life, and he was like saying, Ami, you got to be realistic at times, you know. like and he would just put a smile on his face, you know, saying with like a love and everything, Ami, you could do this no matter what. I know you can. You're gonna. So like I had a hard time in high school. He was just there for me. Like he was like, then it was my year in Israel. Some conflict with it, but he tried his best with everything he has. I did very well in school because of him. I didn't go to public school because of him. I went to yeshiva. If he if like every day he would just stop his patients and everything, and he would just talk to me, and anything on my mind, anything, whether it's 1 o'clock in the morning for me, or 3 o'clock, like we would have the best time, like anything I wanted to speak about my friends, anything I wanted. And actually, like one of my friends are on right now, and I wanted to share with him also how he was an inspiration to me. And
Oh, great. I'm so glad we heard you, and I'm so glad we can see you. And I hope that Rabbi Rindenow's memory will always be a blessing to you, and I hope you will always be able to gain strength from it. Thank you again. The next person who's going to speak is Charlotte Hyman. So I'm going to go ahead and ask you to unmute and start video. I think that's for, so Charlotte, if you want to go ahead and start your video. Charlotte?
Okay. I'm not going to start. I'm not going to do, I don't want to do the video. So.
Okay, you can stop your video and just do the audio, no problem. Go ahead.
Okay, so wait, I'm not able to, okay. All right, so I really hadn't planned on saying anything, but this has been such a beautiful, beautiful morning. I have the honor and
So
privilege.
sorry, we can't hear you.
What?
We can't, now we can't. Why don't you try again? And thank you for being brave. Thanks so much.
I don't know what you're telling me.
Go ahead and speak.
Okay. I said I hadn't planned to say anything this morning, but this is such a beautiful tribute. I had the honor and privilege of working with Rabbi Rindenow every single day at the Hebrew Academy for 15 years. His amazing enthusiasm, his love for the students, for the rabbis, for all of us was unbelievable. The influence he had on our own children, the Shabbatones, just being with him every day. He'd fly in the room, do what he needed to do, fly out to the next. He gave untiringly of his life to the Hebrew Academy. He thought nothing of going to the airport at midnight, at 1 o'clock to pick someone up. He was unbelievable. He was the mashgiach for banquets in hotels. He loved everyone. He was a light and a presence that no one could forget. And he will never be forgotten. Neither will Mindy, who was just the most solid, loving, caring woman who just embraced all of us as her friends. And I hope that his wife and children's lives will be good from now on, and may he rest in peace. And thank you for giving me the chance to say something.
Of course, thank you so much. That was beautiful. Okay, Asher Lipner, you are next. I am so looking for, there you are. Hello, it's so nice to see you. And may we only meet on happy occasions from now on. So I'm gonna ask you to unmute and go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I also didn't prepare to speak, but I wanted to say something in terms of the memories that I have of Mordechai. First of all, I met Mordechai. I got to know Mordechai when I was a very, very young boy, and he actually prepared me for my bar mitzvah. He was my bar mitzvah teacher. He also used to study with me and my brother and one other boy, Michael Jacob, on Sundays, not during school hours, just we had our own private little tutoring with him, and we finished our first Masechta of Gemara. He taught us, and that's something you never forget, because it was a tremendous accomplishment to learn at that age, to finish a whole Masechta. And over the years, he was always part of the family. I considered him like a big brother. And even when he left, I left first. I left San Francisco to go away from school to school. But whenever I came home, I remember many Simchas Torahs with him, and what everyone's talking about, describing the joy and the fun that he brought to everything in life. As I got older, we became closer on a, more of a level, not as a student, but as a friend. And we were both in the same field, psychology, and we would talk about cases that we were working on or things we were learning in psychology. And he always inspired me. Every conversation I had with him was inspirational. um, in a personal way, he used to do things like, I was living in Brooklyn at the time, and he was living in New Jersey. And late at night, he would call me up and want to come visit me in my apartment, because he was in Brooklyn on one of his missions, helping somebody, or raising money for someone, or giving money to someone, or helping somebody. And before he went home, he wanted to stop by to visit. And he always made it feel like I was doing him a favor, when I knew, and I was excited to have the opportunity to have one-on-one time. And I think that's something which a lot of people felt, and people have mentioned that he made you feel like you were so special to him, that it was, if he was listening to you and he was asking you about how you're doing and spending time with you and giving of himself to you, it was almost as if you were doing him a favor. Because in a way, those of us who got so much from him, we also gave to him, because that's what he enjoyed the most, was giving. It was like what got him high on life was his ability to give to other people and to care about other people, to an extreme extent. And I think most of us feel there's nobody else that we've ever met who's like him. And maybe that's something that we can always take with us, that the way he made us feel special about ourselves, and the way we feel like there's nobody else that we've met like him. He's irreplaceable and unique and one in a million, that we should try to see that in each other. We should all feel that each one of us is special, and we should look at each other the way he looked at us and the way we looked at him. And never take anybody for granted. There was nobody that Mordechai didn't care about. Anyone he met, anyone he had anything to do with, he cared about them equally. Like he wanted to help, and he wanted to be supportive of other human beings. He respected everyone, treated everyone with a lot of respect and love. And that's something that will hopefully always live on with us.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much, Asher. And it's so nice to see you. Okay, the next person who's going to speak, and I think after that, there's just one more, unless somebody else wants to tell me otherwise. Marina Durgun, if you want to go ahead and start your video, and then unmute yourself. That would be great. Okay, you're unmuted, and okay, great, fabulous. Spotlighting you. Let's see. Are you spotlit, Marina?
I cannot see myself on the screen, but
let's see. I'm spotlighting you over and okay, that's me. Okay. Let's remove the spotlight from. I'm not sure why.
Maybe you could just talk.
Maybe you can just.
Yeah, I can just talk. I really don't need a video. So I wasn't really planning to talk today, but I just kind of want to chime in and say that I have really, really fond memories of Rabbi Rindenow. So I'm Hebrew Academy middle school alum. And I remember back, in 1991, Rabbi Rindenow, in his typical way, opened his house for Passover to me and another classmate. And I think my memories of that Passover are just filled with, a lot of light, a lot of simcha that Rabbi Rindenow, brought to the celebration. And there were a lot of people. I think besides for, the two of us from school, I mean, the house was full. And I think it was also my introduction to, what a proper Passover Seder looks like, because I definitely have never experienced one. And so I often think of Rabbi Rindenow as we're doing, now the Seder at home, and as, I'm showing my kids what a Seder looks like. And actually, coincidentally, I was just kind of telling somebody about him a couple of days before I learned, from social media that he passed away. So I think, his light and his spirit and his joy and zest for life will definitely shine on, and we'll all take a piece of Rabbi Rindenow with us as, we do our celebration and kind of carry on in life. And thank you, Mariana, for putting this together.
Thank you so much. Well, I think this, it's noon, and I promised we would end at noon, so we're gonna end. And I just wanna say thank you again to Mindy for being such a role model for me for all these decades. I always think about the time when Rabbi Rindenow would come very late, whether it was to the Seder at 10:30 at night because he took someone to the emergency room, or because he had to help someone after synagogue and he would be late to the Shabbat dinner, whatever it was, we always waited for him. And if the Seder was going to start at 10:30 at night, well, he was still going to lead it. And I try to personalize that, and how I always just want to say, we'll start without you. Come when you can. So I'm gonna just try to live my life a little bit more like you. And I just want to thank you for trusting me to organize this. And I love you guys all like my family. And I thank you all for being here. And I hope that we will meet only on happy occasions. And as I promised, I will make the long testimonies, all the long messages that I edited slightly available in case you guys want it. So without further ado, I hope I will see you all soon. And I know David Kerwin, the most amazing helper in me, has something he wanted to say. Again, thank you all so much.
Hi, everyone. I'd just like to say two quick things before we go. One is we all owe an incredible debt of thanks to Mariana for all of her incredibly hard work over the past couple of weeks. It was a tremendous amount of work behind the scenes, both time-wise and I'm sure emotionally, but I know it was a labor of love, and we can all see the incredible results of how much work she put into it. And the other thing I'd just like to say, I mentioned this in my recorded video, that my wife and I visited Rabbi Rindenow and Mindy just in December, and I hadn't seen him for over a year. And we always would catch up about different things we were talking. But for some reason, this brief conversation we had was focused on people from San Francisco. It was we were talking about. He was asking me about so many different students and how they were doing, and if I knew what was going on with them. And these are people he hadn't seen in, some of them probably 30 years. And he just wanted to know, I was catching up with this name and that name, and he remembered you. Trust me, even if you hadn't seen him for a long time, he was still, you were still very much in his heart. And the video that I recorded, I sent quickly to a little WhatsApp group I have with my classmates, and they sent messages back of how much they missed him. And I just had a chance to show him those messages, and it really touched into his heart. So I can definitely say, based on that it would mean a lot. It would have meant a lot to him. It would mean a lot to him if we all try to keep in touch one way or another. The San Francisco Jewish diaspora is an unusual entity, but it's something very special, very unique. It would mean a lot to him if we kept in touch with each other, and if we keep in touch with the Rindenow family when we're in Israel or remotely. I know it would mean a lot to them as well. He definitely was hoping to hear from all of you and to to have you visit with him when you came. So hopefully we can all make an effort to do that in the future. I'm sure it will mean a lot to the family. And again, I also want to thank the family very much for their support and support over all the years, and for this event as well. Thank you very much. Thank you again, Mariana, and thank you to all of you.
With your permission, I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting unless people want to chat with each other. We can also leave it open. So you guys tell me if anybody feels they want to say something to each other, or if you want to chat each other and get your information or anything else. You know, the chat's been enabled. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and end the meeting. Okay, I'm going to end the meeting. Good night. Good night in Israel, and good morning and good afternoon. We have a lot of time zones here. So thank you all again. And next time, well, I'll see you at the Simcha. David, you might have to end the meeting, actually.
Oh, okay. End.